Welcome everyone to our CHAOSS App Ecosystem Working Group meeting. Today is Monday, August the 10th, 2020. In the meeting minutes, looking back what we did last week, we had guests from Drupal and talked about what they were working on, and then continued working on our event organizer persona. And I believe we got all the way through, or maybe not. Nope, we got mostly through. We're in goal number 6 right now. And from there, we started the conversation last week about how we want to share this work and get feedback from others. So my proposal is that we continue work there. I can share my screen, but I'm open to suggestions if anyone else has an idea what else to do.
I think continuing from there is good. We do need to have, I think, be interesting to have a conversation around how we want to deliver this. You know, like, I mean, make a slide deck out of this. You could make a white paper, various blog posts in various different channels, a web page, whatever. Possibly multiple of the things I just said. So.
Yep.
But maybe we should just continue working, finishing off the goals in this one first. And then...
Was there no goal 5 and no goal 7? Are we anti-odd numbered goals?
Yeah. It's the primes.
Only
we don't
even
like
numbers
primes.
only.
Yeah,
that's fine.
We have them. If we go, I have it somewhere. I'm going to stop sharing my screen while I pull that up.
I mean, it's not super important. I was just curious because I didn't see it anywhere.
So let me explain what we've been doing. So we have been working through the goal question metric approach, which in CHAOSS we promote and we think it's a great approach. We started out by listing all of the goals, which you have here, goal 1 through 17. And yes, we also have odd numbers. After identifying the goals, we went through the exercise of writing questions we have within each goal. And you see this here at the bottom of the document, the goal questions. Once we identified those questions, we started seeing some nuances in who is asking those questions and why are they asking them. And so we identified the stakeholders. The list here is best seen in the table of content. So we identified the stakeholders and then matched the persona to the goal, or the stakeholder to the goals. And so for the event activity organizers, it's 4, 6, 8, 17, and I think we added 9 in here. So 4, 6, 8, oh, and then 9 and 17 we push to the bottom for now to get started. And so then we revised all of the goals and questions specific to this persona. And that's the work we're on right now.
Perfect. Thank you for that backstory. I had missed all that context. So awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. I could have also sent you through the 50-minute long presentation Shri and I gave at GoTech.
That does sound interesting though. So I might watch that.
This is great. It's a good presentation.
Yeah. Do you know if they published the recording yet?
I believe so.
I saw a slew of tweets or something go by saying, recordings were getting published. I don't know if it's all of them yet, but
Yeah, I don't know if it's all of them.
I imagine our recording will be difficult because the server crashed.
oh,
Yeah, somewhere in the middle. It's
Yeah.
always, I've generally got bad luck. Like when people ask me to give like, oh, here's all my talk presentations on, and almost all of them have not been recorded or had some problem.
I've had 3 presentations of mine at GuadX be like the only ones not get recorded, or close to the only ones for whatever reasons. I have really bad GuadX luck. So
I hope you're not
Anyway.
taking that personally, Sean.
well, I don't go to GuadX anymore, so whatever.
So joke's on them. You're on to their little game. I see how it is.
Yes, I have it. Let me.
Thanks for coming. Welcome to Guadalajara.
Oops, I hope you didn't hear.
That was weird.
That was weird.
It was like 2 of you. That was awesome. It's like a little cloned army going on back there.
I'll post it on where I could. Where do you want me to post this on the?
You can just post an element in
Okay.
Matrix. Awesome. Thanks for finding that. I always like to believe that we crashed the server because our talk was so popular.
Of
I
course.
choose to believe that.
Of course it was.
I believe it 100%.
All right, I attached the. I could put it in the minutes too.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
that'd be awesome.
Great idea. Maybe we can include in the newsletter, hint, hint, Elizabeth.
Yeah, the one I haven't sent yet from last week. Yeah, we can put it in there for sure. Yeah, good times.
No worries. Okay, down to goal 6, understand company contributions. As an event or activity organizer, who we defined as someone who is organizing like hackfests or conferences or meetups. One of our goals is to understand company contributions. I'll just review what we already have, see if it makes sense. The first question was, how many event attendees come from companies versus volunteer contributors? And the metric is the ratio of attendees that have an organizational affiliation versus those that are volunteers. And the data can come from one of 2 places. One is event registration forms, and we list out questions we can have in the registration form here. Or the other source of data is if an event has different levels of tickets, we can use that data to know who is a hobbyist or academic or sponsored by a company. Although most conferences don't actually ensure that people select the right ticket. So it's an honor system. Little caveat here. I'll pause here. I think we're good. Any questions? The second question to understand company contributions as an event or activity organizer is, what companies are attending our event? And the metric is a list of organizations attendees affiliate with. And we get this from our registration form. Pretty straightforward. And we are on to question 3. This is where we did not continue last time. We need to continue. So in understanding company contributions as an event activity organizer, a question we have is, what companies are involved in the event beyond sending employees? And the metric is list of companies represented by speakers. And we get this from the event schedule. A metric is the list of companies who directly sponsor the event. And we can get this data from the organizers. We can also probably get this from the event website. And then we have a metric list of companies who are in other ways involved in the event. And that one is a little bit more fuzzy because we cannot specify all the ways companies can be involved in the event. So the best way might be to ask organizers.
Yeah, it is fuzzy, and I think it has to be fuzzy, but you probably just have to ask organizers. Because you might have, you know, events have very often a volunteer staff putting it together, but you might not be a volunteer. Like Red Hat might say to me, like, hey, Sean, you can spend, you know, 5 hours a week volunteering on our time to help on this event. That's a Red Hat contribution, you know, to, I don't see how you'd get that data short of just the organizers saying it.
Yeah. There's no system that events use for tracking who is contributing. And if there is, then it's very unique. It's not, there's no standard like GitHub for open source projects.
Would that also include companies that you might hire to do the recording, for instance, or would that be something separate?
Are we hiring the companies doing the recordings? Or
Well,
are
like,
they...
yeah, like, so I know there's a company that does a lot of the recordings for like RubyCons and RailsConf and stuff like that. So I don't know, would that be considered a company that's involved in the event because they're kind of, we're hiring, like if I was the organizer and I hired them, is that what kind of data we're also trying to capture here? Does that make sense? Or like a company that would do like closed captioning or something else that would be supportive of the event production? Or do we care about that?
Yeah, maybe that just depends on what you want for the event you're looking at. I guess it might depend on, are they offering a discount or are they doing something short of just being a contractor? But
Right. Or if it's like something another company sponsors, like, hey, sponsor a video recording for us or something to that effect. I don't know how, like, if it's a contractor, then I don't know if that metric means anything. It just means it's like more of a financial blip.
The only reason I bring it up is because there's some companies are super involved in the community, and so like they might, you know, offer services or something like that. That I don't know. I mean, I think that they would be like, it's more than just a contracting relationship. It's more of like a partnership kind of, if that makes sense. It's a little deeper, but I don't know if we care about that, if that is something that we want on the radar. I know in the PHP community, there's a couple of PHP developers who started an event like support company. So like they're also in the community as PHP contributors, but they also have this event company that they run events from or help people run events from. So I don't know if that would be considered a company contribution because they do get paid for that, or like photographers and things like that that are also part of the community. I don't know. So
yeah.
it just seems like a little more than just like some rando that you would just hire to do something.
I think it's probably worth just putting a note with this metric and, you know, whatever deliverable we put this stuff out in, like just, you know, kind of write that in there, like, hey, you person who is reading this and preparing your own metrics, like here are things you might consider, and maybe you just need to decide for yourself.
Okay.
Where you want to set these fuzzy boundaries on this kind
Gotcha.
of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a fuzzy metric, right? It's
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Or like, you know, unofficial events that happen in conjunction with, you know, larger events like those that could also maybe be lumped in this, you know, as they're involved, but not officially. So yeah, it is fuzzy.
I'll just add the note here. We might keep it in the future. We might decide to drop it again. That's a good point. Question 4, as an event activity organizer, I want to understand company contributions, and a question I have is, how many companies are repeat sponsors and how many only sponsored once? The metric is a list of sponsors.
Yep.
Separated into groups of, list of sponsors with their number of times sponsoring. And the data can come.
Are we concerned, or do we care about what level they're sponsoring at or anything like that?
Yeah, companies stay on, but they reduce their level. That's concerning, and it might not be shown up in a simple on-off metric.
So maybe we need a second metric.
Garrett, this might just be a separate question. Just how many companies are repeat sponsors? But I don't think that would tell you how many companies stopped sponsoring. Does that warrant a separate question?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes, I think you're right.
Or maybe that's just a metric under a more broadly phrased same question. I hate to add questions.
I just added it here.
Okay.
I think we can probably answer this question all in one visualization.
Yeah.
But there are different parts to it. And for one, we want to see the list of sponsors, the number of times they've sponsored. Maybe we do this by including the year. So sponsored 2010, 14, 15, 16, 17, and then they stop. And that already answers the last metric C, list of sponsors with the last time they sponsored. But I think it's sensible to call them out separately as data points or different unique metrics that we are interested in. And then the amount sponsored by organizations and by year. This can be a table, it can be a graph. Those are all good points. The amount they sponsored is probably not on the website. Probably need to work with event organizers.
Maybe you might glean it from the levels. But
Yeah.
Yeah, there might be like a prospectus that you could snag from website that would have a listing. Some people don't post that publicly, but others do. This is a little bit off topic, so we can not discuss it now if you don't want to. But something that just made me think of this was, do we care about the other conferences or events that might be considered competition? Or, you know, like, do we care about the landscape? Or as an event organizer, I would care about the landscape of conferences overall, because there's limited budgets for sponsorships. That's what made me think of this. So if there's more conferences overall in the same kind of space that you're living in, that might be something that you're interested in, but it's, again, tangential to kind of what we're discussing right now. But I know, like when I worked at GitHub, I worked on the sponsorship team, and so we only had a limited budget. So we would get literally hundreds of requests a week for sponsorships, and it's like it was crazy, and it just grew over the years. So like I mean, as an event organizer, it just gets harder and harder to kind of stand out and get those sponsors. So I think that that's something that they might be interested in keeping an eye on. Granted, now with COVID, who knows if that's like who even knows what they're going to be interested in. But I don't know, it was just something that was really curious to me of how many, just this sheer number of events and conferences that are happening.
I feel that as one of the hundreds that sent those sponsorship requests to you at GitHub and didn't always get it. Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, I always felt really awful, like when we had to turn people down because they were great events. I was like, oh,
And it's
God,
just,
I'm so sorry.
it's the landscape. It's what you got to do.
Yeah,
You don't have
sucks,
infinite budget.
right?
Yeah. I'm also one of those people who asked for budget. So
Well, if I gave it to you, awesome. But if I didn't, I'm sorry.
no, it's understandable. I didn't, but it's understandable why. So it's not a big deal. It's not like I failed. I just have not succeeded yet.
And I think it's interesting too, as how companies kind of shifted their, like when we started sponsoring things, sorry, we're totally tangential. When we started sponsoring things back when I started at GitHub in 2012, it was literally first come, first serve. It was like, here's a bucket, whatever gets done, whatever gets handed out that's all we have. But, then of course, as GitHub evolved, their priorities changed and, things like that. So I don't know if that's something, I mean, obviously that's something an event organizer cares about, but I don't think there's any metrics around, what companies are looking for, or like, what is the path to success to getting a sponsorship? If there was, that would be great, but.
Yeah, I added a question here. So under understand company contributions, we also want to understand the landscape of similar events. Or maybe we should say how competitive is it to get sponsorships? Maybe that's the question. How competitive is it to get sponsorships for?
And it also kind of speaks to attendees too, and I guess speakers. So if there's, maybe not speakers so much, but attendees that have a limited budget for travel and, things like that, it's also tricky to get, you know what I mean? So it might be more than just sponsorships.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question. Okay, goal 8. As an event activity organizer, I have a goal to identify the wholeness of skills in our project. A question I have is, what skill programs do we have at our event? And the metric is a list of skill programs, and we get this from the event organizers or the event website. When we write this up for sharing it out, we need to specify what we need by skill programs. And
Yes, because I'm not even entirely sure what qualifies. Is this like training programs at an event, or is it? Are we talking about skills of running an event, or the skills that the event theme is supposed to be teaching?
I understand. Those are both valid points. My thought was we're looking at skills in the project and the community.
Okay.
So looking about those skills, but the skills for running the event are definitely important too.
So skill programs, if we're talking about content of the schedule, right? Would maybe be tracks of the schedule. So like design or community building or leadership or technical, I guess. I don't know. Is that kind of what they mean by skill programs? Do you think, like tracks?
Oh,
I
maybe.
think that would be part of it. You do see events that actually have workshops or training events, or sometimes those cost extra. Like Ohio Linux Fest is a regional Linux Fest, and they do like a day before like training program that I've never done it. You got to pay more for it to it, but it's like an actual like a day-long classroom before you go sit in and watch talks. So
Gotcha. Yeah. And as I'm looking
Guadek
at
has done that a
question,
few times. Sorry.
oh no, you're fine. I was just gonna say, as I look at question number 3, it literally says number of tracks. So I don't know if that's, I don't know. But okay, so skill programs is the way that information is being delivered then, as opposed to like a workshop versus like a lightning talk, open space, that kind of stuff, right? Okay. Sorry,
So
that's my talk.
Speed mentoring. Interesting.
yeah, I have done those. Those are fun. I've
Speed-
done them both as a mentor and mentee. And, oh, where did I put it? I had a souvenir from one of those. Now I can't find it.
That seems pretty intense. Like, like speed mentoring, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Sounds fun.
I want to know how that works. Yeah.
I've always enjoyed doing lightning talk, so I think speed mentoring would be also fun.
Ah, nice.
Here, from the Linux Foundation, we got these sunglasses. That was in San Diego. The mentors each got a sunglass to identify that we are mentors, and then we were in a big room with tables, and the mentees could walk around to the different tables, and then we had 10 minutes. Everyone had a quick 30-second introduction, and then we talked about questions and advice and whatnot. And the mentors would stay, and then the mentees would find a new table. It's a lot of fun. Speed mentoring.
Speed mentoring. I wonder how we would incorporate that. Even
Okay, I think. So what?
Oh, I was just thinking how you would do that. I mean, because I'm interested in onboarding. Anyway, no worries. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk about it another time. Eric Riedel was organizing the speed mentoring that I participated in. I don't know if you know him.
Can't say I do.
Yeah, I can connect you.
Okay. I'm always interested in that so that we can show. We have a meeting every Saturday. So having guest speakers talking about this stuff is good.
Okay. Okay, so as an event activity organizer, a goal I have is to identify the wholeness of skills in our project or community or ecosystem. All of them, really. And a question I have is, what is the diversity of initiatives we have at our event? Initiatives. It's also
Initiatives at an event, right? Not just event initiatives.
Yeah.
This seems like a duplicate of the one we just did.
To me, it's different. So a skill program is about skilling up. An initiative could be having gender neutral bathrooms.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Or a nursing room, a quiet room.
Does that speak to the wholeness of skills though? That seems like it would be under goal 9. It says identify diversity and
Mhm.
I assume diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe it should go there. I don't know. This whole identify wholeness of skills is throwing me off.
I have a
I agree.
thought,
Like
but I think my thought fits more in question 3. So,
Go ahead, Sean.
really? If I look at the skills that are represented in terms of how they're being presented in tracks or workshops or whatever in an event, I think I would be curious to cross correlate that with the skills that are represented or are needed within the project as a whole. So if I were to look at a project like GNOME, obviously you have a lot of developers, but you also have graphic designers and user experience designers and documentation people and marketing people and testers and we could go on with all these skills. So you could make that kind of skill list of the people who are part of your project, and then compare that. When you then have a big event like GWADEC, is GWADEC all developer oriented, or is it hitting those other skills that are relevant to your project? And I use GNOME as a specific example, but I think you can do this across the board with so many projects. Are your events representing the skills that are making your project? And I'm sure you can quantify that somehow.
I actually I already did the documentation on decomposing the GNOME project into skill sets, I guess. So, so they're documented. We just have to document it in the event.
Okay. So Sean here, I tried to capture it, and Shri, if you have any other ideas for where that data came from that you collected, we can add this here as well.
And so for events that might be more generic and just open source in general and not surrounded or not specifically around a certain project, could we maybe add something that where we look at the array of languages or array of different things that are provided in the talk schedule? So for instance, if I'm running a general open source conference like OSCON used to be, I'm going to make sure I have some talks about Ruby and PHP and R and, Python and whatever. Do we want something like that in here? And then also, in addition to all of the different languages, also have UX and, documentation and all the things we were just talking about.
I heard feels like a very fine granularity if you're looking at languages, and then it starts getting, I feel, difficult to collect.
Too much. Okay.
I think just having this question spark that thought is a good thing, because that's the whole reason we are doing this. One thing to keep in mind that we are looking at the app ecosystem, and so we're a little specific maybe.
There could be a lot of languages in the app ecosystem. Just and then subdivided, right? If you're looking at JavaScript, now you have Node.js, and then a bunch of
Well, and maybe
GNOME alone.
yeah.
Maybe just by using the word community, we have kind of covered our bases. So like a JavaScript sorry, there's like a big echo, but the JavaScript community,
Shri.
if it's a, is it Shri? Gosh.
It's me. It's always me.
But yeah, so like a JavaScript conference would, their community would want all the different frameworks, like the thousands of frameworks, you know, so we could just kind of say, well, it goes with the whatever community as defined by the organizer.
Okay, that makes sense. So I'm okay with leaving it as is. I think it sparks the right thoughts. And we're a little bit inspirational here, not saying you have to do it this way and only this way. I think we can start doing that once we have people actually using metrics and coming up with how they implement it. And once we share that experience, then we can say, oh, this is a best practice. Let's everyone do it that way. But we're nowhere close to that point. So I'm still not entirely sure what to do about this one. And how much it overlaps with the previous one. But I'm okay with leaving it for now until we rework the metric into our final shareable output. And so if we want to take the last 4 minutes, we can talk about how we want to do that, how we want to share.
Yeah, that
our
seems
work.
kind of, yeah, probably leave a note or something.
So one thing we start discussing is to take the Google Doc and just put it into our GitHub repo to archive it there, make sure we have track history. Google Docs are great for collaborative editing, but not so great for long-term storage. But that is just to archive it for ourselves. We still need to share it with others.
Right.
And we've talked about a few options, blog post. Sean, you had a whole list earlier, and I'm blanking.
Sure. So you could do a white paper, like, I mean, it could be HTML too, but PDF looks pretty for white papers, where it feels like a published document, right, instead of just random posts, which would basically follow the structure of what we have, except adding in prose to explain it to. It's almost like the document as we have it now is kind of a document to ourselves, right? It has the information in there, but not a lot of the, it's not what I would use to present to somebody. It's not interesting. It doesn't have exposition in it that makes it interesting, right? So a white paper, which would be a longer read for somebody who's really committed to wanting to learn all this stuff. You can do a series, I mean, you can do a white paper on each of the personas. This is just the first of them, the event and activity organizers. For each one of those things, you could also do a series of blog posts that break it up into smaller chunks, maybe one per goal. Maybe even some goals would be multiple blog posts, depending on how lengthy they get, right? You want to watch the length of your blogs, because people don't read long blogs. And potentially a slide deck can be a useful resource if we anticipate anybody actually presenting this at events. A shared slide deck can be useful. But if no one's going to present it, then that's just wasted work, right?
Yeah, we can create the slide deck after we get our talk accepted.
There you go, right.
That's how I always do it.
I will also put a plug in for Chaos Cast. I think that would be a really interesting conversation, one or more conversations.
Yes. I think it would be a good idea to have an episode on this. How about we take one of the Monday meetings we have and just record it during this time slot? It's just a different format from what we have been doing. And the focus is
Yeah.
more on reflecting, thinking back of how we did it, why we did it, what we hope people will do. I think
Yeah,
that's
that'd
a
be
good
rad.
idea. So one of the questions I have, and I know we're out of time, so maybe this is food for next time, is what of these formats, what is the format that event organizers or people who actually would be doing metrics most likely consume? Because Sean, you already mentioned white paper would be only for very dedicated people. It might not be getting the most attention. Whereas a series of smaller blog posts, I think, has a greater potential of being read, especially if we split them up across many different blogs and link to each other. So we can have a couple blog posts on CHAOSS, some on opensource.com, maybe GNOME and KDE have blogs where we can contribute to. And we can just say, hey, this is part of a series of blog posts. And maybe on CHAOSS.community, we have one master blog post where we share out to all of the smaller blog posts that are part of the series. I see
Yeah.
you're all quiet, not trying to prolong this meeting.
No, but there is a blog. I'm sorry for my ignorance here. There is a CHAOSS blog that we can just blog in, like there's an existing channel. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, we should absolutely make use of that. Starting your own blog is a fool's errand, but
I'm in the midst of that then. So, and that turned to some serious bike shedding because go and hunt for your audience. And
Yeah. And I don't know what the audience on the CHAOSS blog is, so I would definitely also want to use other blogs that are more widely read.
I know that we're also talking about cross-posting to Medium, because that's kind of like the platform. I think that's the most used right now. Still, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, so just kind of cross-posting some of those CHAOSS blogs over there, that would help, I think.
I'm I was looking at, I've been doing for my own blog series, my work blog series, and looking into dev.to, dev.to, which is open source and open community and a lot more aligned with what, I guess, philosophically. So it seemed like a much better fit.
Interesting.
Well, I need to go.
Yep.
So, thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Let's continue in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Sounds good.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
yeah.